with Major League Baseball games not happening for the foreseeable future because of what's going on in the world, I figured I want to make a video on the last time that there was a stoppage in play for the baseball season, and the last time that was, or that had happened, was the 1994 MLB player strike of 1994 that wiped out the entire the end of the season, wiped out the entire World Series, the entire playoffs, and lasted until April 2nd in 1995. So they didn't play a full 162 games in 94 and a full 162 game season in 1995. But I figured I want to do this, so that's why. Um, Strike night, just some background information on the strike before I kind of get just some facts about the strike, I should say. It's the longest stoppage of play in Major League Baseball history. It beat out the 1981 player strike. The strike began on August 12th of 1994 through the 2nd of April 1995. And it was the first time in 90 years that the World Series has not been played. 1994 was the first time since, I think it was, well, if you do the math, that would have been 1905. No, 1904 was the first year, or the previous year, that the World Series hasn't been played. So it's a time-honored tradition, and it didn't happen, which I will get into later on, who throughout the season got affected by the strike, what records could have happened or whatnot. Why did the strike start? I think the strike started when the owners fired or gave Fay Vincent, the commissioner before Bud Selig, an 18-9 vote in no confidence. At the point, there was 28 teams. Yeah, there was 28 teams during this time, during 94. Owners agreed to tamper with free agency as well, and that's when Fay Vincent pretty much said the union basically doesn't trust the ownership because collusion was a $280 million theft by Bud Selig and Jerry Reinsdorf. Selig was I believe, the owner of the Milwaukee Brewers, while Jerry Reinsdorf, the owner of the White Sox, pretty much stole money from players. And Donald Furr, who was the MLB PA director, had no faith in Bud Selig. Had absolutely no faith and no interest to talk with Selig about what was coming up, and that was how can we still play baseball, even though neither one of us even though we both think we're not arbitrating and negotiating in good faith. So the owners gave their pitch, say, hey, we want the 94 season to finish. This is our idea, this is our ideas, and we'll negotiate. Owners wanted a 50-50 split on all revenues. They wanted to eliminate the salary arbitration. They wanted to permit players with 4 to 6 years to be free agents, but the main team would retain them if they matched their offer. It's kind of like a offer sheet in hockey. That list, or that point is. It's kind of like an offer sheet in hockey. At least that's what I'm thinking. From what I've read, they wanted to escalate the minimum wage or minimum salaries for guys under 4 years of playing time. So they wanted to and that was negotiated through the Players Association and the owners. So that was a negotiating thing as well. And the biggest thing that they wanted was a salary cap. They wanted a salary cap to prevent, because at this time there was a big difference between the high-end teams and the lower-end teams, which there is now, because higher-end teams could make the money and get the big-name guys, but the lower teams couldn't. And they would, one of the things that they were wanting to do was have which I will get into, I believe, later on, yes, they wanted the top 16 teams to share profits and share the revenue with the lower 12 teams. And that the salary cap and splitting revenues are, I think, probably the biggest reasons that this didn't go through. Dental for like I think it's for fair. Uh, the director of the union, the Players Association, rejected the offer flat out. But he did feel like the owners were going to push this through anyway. They were at an impasse. They felt like the owners were just going to say screw it, get this through, and achieve absolutely nothing. Fur felt like they had no choice but to strike. If they didn't strike, then they would have had no leverage. They would have had no ground to stand on for negotiations. So that's why he felt like they needed to strike. That was the last thing that they could do, and they still had some power, and that was the main. That was their main card that they could throw down. All right, you don't want to negotiate, we'll strike. And that's what happened on August 12th. Players decided to stop playing until an agreement was made. Bud Selig, who at this point I don't think was officially commissioner, and like he wasn't Commissioner Bud Selig, but he was acting commissioner. He wasn't named commissioner, but he was acting commissioner. Selig set the date for an agreement to be implemented September 9th. So if there was not an agreement between the owners and the union, there would be no season. The season would end on September 9th, or September 8th. There was no agreement, no season. That was the point. The Players Association sent their final offer to the owners. The union pretty much said, we want a 2% tax on top 16 payrolls divided into the lower 12 teams. So take 2%, tax the 2%, or tax the top 16 teams 2%, and divide that, which however money that could be, divide that into the lower 12 teams to kind of make it a little fairer. Try to balance out the competition, which is something the owners also wanted, but that you can construe that into some other ways. And teams also wanted to share, or they also wanted the teams to share 25% of the revenues from the gate. So ticket sales, pretty much. They wanted teams to share a quarter of their revenues from tickets. They wanted the union wanted to share throughout the other, I would assume, the lower 12 teams again. Obviously, the owners said no. The owners would not have accepted that. And like I said, baseball was done September 8th. September 9th, last game was the 8th. Now, between the 9th and the 2nd, there's a lot of negotiations. There's actually the government, the United States government gets brought into it. I remember researching it, and President Bill Clinton at the time, said, hey, I'm going to set the date, which I think was December or something, or January or something, said, hey, we're going to get this figured out, and that day up and went, nothing happened. And then I think eventually it was settled by, it was on February 6th was the date Clinton set. And it's a whole bunch of legal battles, arbitrations between the owners and the union. Courts get involved. It's very interesting to sit down and read. That stuff's way over my head. I just want to kind of keep this as simple as I can, and that's what I'm hoping that's what I'm hoping to do. And and getting back onto the timeline, skipping most of the middle, all the negotiations with courts and stuff. April 2nd, 1995, the players agreed to return. Both the players and the owners would have to work under the old collective bargaining agreement until the new one could be made. And that entails, really the big ticket on that, there was no salary cap. They didn't agree to a salary cap, but they did agree to a luxury tax. And that's still what's implemented today. That's the competitive balance tax threshold, which I think now The Dodgers are completely over, I think, and the Red Sox are trying to get under it now. And it's still a hot topic item, really, I think, now. Um, now we're getting onto the backlash from fans. Fans were completely angry at both players and the owners. And I mean, if you even look, I mean, 1994 is not ancient history. If you remember it, I mean, I wasn't born, but just looking up pictures of and researching it, fans were completely pissed. There were Field of Greed and Field of Greed was one of the big signs. And strike, owners win, players win, fans lose. That was another big strike. And these are instances of fans bringing signs. And in this case, which I think is probably the most outlandish, a fan paid a plane to fly over above Riverfront. That's the old Cincinnati Reds stadium, Riverfront Stadium, where the old Reds used to play. And on the back of that plane had a sign said, "Owners and players to hell with you." And it just shows you how fans felt about 1990, the 94 strike. They felt like, you're getting paid enough, let's just play ball. And now, I wonder how they feel today with players getting paid millions of... I think the average salary is $4.6 million in 2019 for the average salary, which has completely gone up, because I think the salary in 94 was $1.2 million, I think, was the average salary of players. And like I mentioned, 1995, there's only 144 games played. Now, getting on to the 94 season, lost players, the 1994 season lost, players and teams affected. When you think of the 94 strike, first thing that pops into your mind of missed opportunities is the Montreal Expos. They're the first team that comes to mind. They had a great team. They had Pedro Martinez. They had freaking Ken Hill, John Wetteland, freaking, why am I blanking? Cliff Floyd, Larry Walker, Marquise Grissom, Moises Alou. This was their best team. And they got cut, and they were first in their division as well. And the strike just said no. Baseball gods struck them down and said, your time has come. You are not getting the chance. Which sucks absolutely, considering what happens after the strike. They have to cut payroll. They lose Marquise Grissom, who goes on to win a World Series with the Braves. They lose Larry Walker. They lose Ken Hill. They lost John Wetteland, who Hill and Wetteland are, outside of Pedro, they're top two pitchers. Wetteland, Hill, and Pedro. Pedro's obviously the number one. Hill and Wetteland, especially Hill, was really good. Wetteland was pretty good. And they lose all those guys because they had to cut payroll after the strike. They had to cut payroll in 95. And it's not just the Expos that are affected, but that's the first team that pops in your mind. Tony Gwynn. 1994, he had, I believe at the end of the year, he had a .396 batting average. That year, if there was a strike, or if there was no strike, Tony Gwynn could have hit 400. Could he have hit 406? Maybe. But I think that year was the last time anybody will get close to 400. I just don't see anybody hitting 400 or breaking Williams' record anymore with just the way baseball's played. I don't see it. You're focusing on more power hitting than contact getting on base hitting. Matt Williams maybe breaking Roger Maris's record is also another lost opportunity. He had, I believe it was 43 home runs? No, 48 home runs with 43 games to go. So he was only, I think it was 16 or 17 away from breaking Maris's record. So that's in reach, and the strike took that away. And I think the last big thing that got taken away was Carlos Baerga. Baerga, I think that's how you say his last name. The second baseman for the Indians. 92 and 93. He already hit 20 homers, 200 hits, and 100 RBIs by his second baseman. He was doing this, and that's a record right there in of itself. 20 homers, 200 hits, 100 RBIs by his second baseman. He was going for his third year in a row, and the strike took that away from him. And probably, and I'm going to end on this note, or not the happiest, it gets to that. Um, the best thing to come out of the strike is from 1995 to 2020. This is the longest prolonged labor peace in Major League Baseball. It's there. Nobody wants another strike. Not with the way the fans reacted. Not with what it did to the game. Bud Selig said it tore the fabric of the game. It ripped some fabric of the game, and he's not wrong. The strike ruined the game. Nobody cared about baseball until 1998, when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were in the home run chase. That revived baseball. Because the strike killed it, the home run chase revived it. And right now we're in the we're in the longest piece of labor peace in Major League Baseball. And I hope it stays that way for years to come. But I hope you guys liked the video. If you liked it, press the like button, subscribe down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Share this video with all your friends and buddies. Let me know what you guys think about the strike. If you were alive when it happened, let me know how you guys felt about it. And yeah, just let me know what you guys think about it, and I will see you guys later.